Before we start, um, the session today, this afternoon, I'd like to first of all thank all the members and friends of Vajravidya of Portland for inviting me to be with you again today. It's really been fun, and I suspect that over time we'll probably want to do a second part of this where we talk more about the ritual aspects of it. I had a chat with Kathy Jackson, who created the outline that I shared with Susie and Steve. And she said that what she found after she had been teaching this for a while, her feeling was that it was probably best to break the practice up into two sessions, using one session to teach the visualization and another session to teach the mudras and the offerings and so on. And so that I'll make a note of that. And the next time we get together, all of us, I'll do an extra session on the mudras so that everybody will be able to see them. I did go ahead and take a photograph of the page in the book, in the New Zealand edition of the book that teaches the 5 Buddha families mudras. So we'll try to work that in this afternoon if there's time, and we will do our best. So because I did not allow questions last time, so I'll see if there are any questions while we're getting started. Reminding us that we have refuge and bodhicitta in our hearts, and that we're taking this class in order to learn more about the medicine Buddha so that we can benefit beings. So thank you. Any questions to start the afternoon? Okay, thank you. From Ted, your video of the mudras is on YouTube. Yes, I believe that Lama Karma Drodol created a mudra video on YouTube, and that would be the one that you would want to see. The one that I did was for the Amitabha practice, not for the medicine Buddha practice. So so that, I mean, it's great. I mean, it's great as far as it goes, but you have extra offerings in medicine Buddha, rupa and so on. So it's probably going to be smart to see the one that's more complete. And I'll see if I can't dig that URL for you, if I can't, dig that up for you, so that you can watch the one of Lama Karma doing the mudras, which I think is probably going to be the one that is more like what Trungpa Rinpoche would teach. Any other questions? Yeah, just feel free to unmute and ask. And if you end up talking over each other.
I have a quick one.
Yeah.
How do you feel, or how is it thought of to do this sadhana, like maybe when you're alone, just in English?
Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche was a very big proponent of doing things in Tibetan, because there's an extra blessing from doing it in the language that the text was written in. So if you do it only in English, there's that you're missing out on a blessing that you could have if you would recite it in Tibetan. So what I encourage people to do is to work with the sadhana in both languages. And how that looks for you might be different than how it looks for other people. For example, for some people, doing it in both languages means that they read one section in English and then read it in Tibetan, or vice versa. They read it in Tibetan first, then they reread it in English. For some people, that means that they read it in English one day, the entirety in English one day, and then the entirety in Tibetan another day. So there, I encourage people to work with both languages so that they can have they can take an even tempered approach. Because when I meet people who struggle with Tibetan transliterations and so on, they're at the two opposite ends of two extremes. One extreme, and most of us fall in the middle. You, me, we mostly fall in the middle. But there are some who say, if I don't understand a word of it, I'm not doing it. And on the other side, you get people who say, oh, well, I will only do it in Tibetan because I only care about the blessing. So these are two kind of extreme positions. They don't care that they don't know what it means. And then the others only will do it if they know what it means. And so everybody needs to take a couple more steps toward the middle.
So, I mean, if you just did Tibetan, you'd also be missing out if it wasn't your first language.
Exactly. So, I mean, it is great to have that kind of devotion, though. I will say that. I will actually say that it's great to have that kind of devotion, but I encourage people to be more middle path and to try to relate to it in both languages. And when Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche was teaching his students to do the Nundro practice, for example, let's just use that as an example. He said, there are lots of prayers that you have to recite in Tibetan, in Nundro, and some of them you have to count. Now, he's not talking here about the Vajrasattva mantra, which should really only be done in one of the two original languages that it comes to us in, which would be Sanskrit or Tibetan. So you wouldn't want to recite the Vajrasattva mantra in anything other than those two languages. But he said the other things that need repetition, he said, do your first 10,000 in English and then gradually work into doing it in Tibetan, because he says you'll find that after a while, you'll be able to see the concordance between the different words. So I think, for all of us, we have to be in the middle. We have to both understand what we're saying and have an appreciation for the blessing that comes. So if we can be even-minded about it and find a way to work with it that works for us, that'd be good. So I hope that's middle of the road. Okay. Anyone else have a question?
In the shrine room?
Okay, yes.
It's Jan. When you're doing your own palace, as far, visualizing your own palace, does your immediate environment transform in any way, or is it an internal visualization altogether?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I'm going to say the answer is both. Both are true. That would be my answer to the question, and I'll tell you why. We've been walking around in this amazing machine that we call our human body for many years, right? We have a love-hate relationship with it. I look at it in the mirror and it's like never what I wanted it to be, that kind of thing. So we have this sort of love-hate relationship with our human body and our environment, and we tend to solidify a lot of things and to cling to them or dislike them. There's two kinds of clinging to stuff that you like, and then clinging to stuff as being bad. So you get my picture. And so I think there's immense benefit in being able to transform your environment wherever you are, whether you're in your car or in a tent or in a house or in a place that's got a shrine in it or in a place that doesn't have a shrine in it, like a hotel room. You can transform wherever you are, because the potential for seeing everything with what's called sacred outlook, the potential to see everything through the lens of sacred outlook is always there. It's always there for you. And so it doesn't matter where you are. You can be in Medicine Buddha's pure realm, wherever you are, because you have Buddha nature, And so just as your ultimate nature is Buddha, the environment around you has ultimate purity as its nature. And to imagine it in the form of the medicine Buddhist pure realm is kind of a cool thing. And I'll say one more thing about this, and then I'll see what you think. And that is the word mandala comes to mind here. The word mandala comes to mind here because the word mandala means center and surrounding. And so there are many kind of mandalas. We've all seen the pictures where awakened beings' palaces are drawn in sand or paint and imagined in 2 dimensions and visualized in 3 dimensions. That's one kind of mandala. But there's the mandala of our mundane life and world. In our current mundane life and world, we're still the center of everything. We think we are anyway. We're sort of the center of everything, and there's like all kinds of things swirling around us. We have family, we have friends, we have job, we have career, we have home, we have everything, right? It's all, we're the center of all of it. And so right now we see it in a very mundane way, but the practice of mantra yoga or deity yoga gives us the potential to transform how we see ourselves, our body, our speech, and our mind, how we see and experience ourselves, as well as how we see and experience our environment. And so I asked Khenpo Rinpoche once, it said that the threefold discipline of a mantra practitioner, the threefold discipline is form as deity, sound as mantra, and thought as enlightened awareness. The transformation of body, speech, and mind. Form as deity, sound as mantra, and thought as awakened awareness. And so what we start out with is we start out with our mundane idea of our body that we then exchange for the body made of light that is insubstantial, the body of the deity. And in fact, we're encouraged to see the whole world as being the body of the deity, not in that it looks like the deity, but that all of the things that are surrounding us are said to be of the same nature, empty luminosity, as the deity. So the idea here, form as deity, it means we try to see things as the inseparability of form and emptiness. Sound, it's not like every, revving of the Harley Davidson across the street, every rev of the engine is Om Mani Padme Hum or something like that. But it is of the same nature as the nature of the mantra, which is sound, the unity of sound and emptiness. And thought, okay, we might be thinking about what we're eating for lunch tomorrow. So that's not necessarily the awakened awareness of the deity and content-wise, but the nature of it is. It is of the nature. It is the unity of thought and awakened awareness. So if we can transform our body, speech, and mind by practicing this threefold discipline of the mantra practitioner, form as deity, sound as mantra, thought as awareness, then we could actually manifest the pure realm right here, right now. I don't know if that's helpful to you. What do you think about that idea that you're the center of the mandala? It's kind of wild, right?
That's helpful. It's all helpful.
Yeah. And it invites us to see things differently. It invites to see ourselves and see our Buddha potential as a more imminent and immediate experience, other than some kind of like faraway idea in the future, if you know what I'm saying. I see a question on chat. Purification may not remedy chronic illnesses, and lengthy illnesses often precede death. what benefits from medicine Buddha accrue to these individuals? Is it acceptance that is the key here? You know, that is actually true, is that that purification may not remedy chronic illnesses, and lengthy illnesses often precede death. What benefit can medicine Buddha accrue to these individuals? There's a couple of different things that happen as a result of practicing deity yoga. And one of them has to do with the previous questioner's question, which is, can I do this practice in my ordinary house, you know, kind of in my ordinary place with my ordinary me and my ordinary everything? And the answer is absolutely, because, pardon me, as Karma Chakme says at the beginning of this practice, it's great if you have a medicine Buddha tanka and you have the ability to make the 8 offerings and that kind of stuff. But it's also okay if you just merely visualize it as being present. So what this means is that the transformation of our mind is a very important part of deity practice. So there will be benefit to any individual who practices medicine Buddha with the intention that it bring about supreme spiritual healing for the individual, which may or may not manifest as acceptance, but will definitely manifest as the ability to bless others. I'll give you an example. Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche said one time, he said, a lot of people come up to me and tell me, oh, the deities don't really exist. There really aren't any Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. They don't really exist. They're just like archetypes or something. They're ideas, they're archetypes, they're not real. And Rinpoche said, you know, I'm kind of tired of hearing people say this. He said, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are 100% real, to the extent that anything is real, by the way, which means, yeah, kind of in a relative sense, they are. And he said, and when you pray to them, they are actually present in front of you. And when you call them to come, they actually come to be with you. And when you ask them to stay, please be seated on this excellent, they actually stay. And he said, why else do you think that holy places are holy places and holy people are holy people? Because they've invited the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to be present with them again and again and again and again. So even though the practice of medicine Buddha may end up not curing a chronic illness, it will nonetheless bring a blessing to the individual and their environment if they do it with this sincere wish to be of benefit. And not only that, it will help them in their future lives, because you notice at the end of the sadhana, it asks for us to be reborn in Dewa Chen. Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche said that when you are reborn in Dewa Chen, you arise from your lotus flower and you see the Buddha Amitabha, you receive his teachings and you traverse the Bodhisattva bhumis very easily. And so he said, then with your eye of wisdom as an awakened being, you can see all of those you left behind and send emanations to them to benefit them and help them in their life. So he said, in a way, asking to be reborn in Dewa Chen is a really powerful way to easily traverse the paths, the 5 paths of the Mahayana. They're a very easy way to do it. And plus, then you can emanate from there, because if you read Gampopa's Jewel Ornament of Liberation, you'll know that at each bodhisattva level, you gain the capacity to penetrate and visit many, many realms and see many, many teachers and do many, many good things. And so in this particular way, you have this potential that you're unlocking with the medicine Buddha, that right now we think of only in terms of, will it help cure my illness, or will it help do this or help do that? But in the end, kind of what it does is it transforms our view of ourselves. It transforms our view of the world. And it can actually bring about a very powerful spiritual healing that will cause us to be sources of strength for other people. My example for this is my friend, Mike. I don't need to give his last name because it's not necessary. Mike had brain cancer. He was part of a Sangha that I'm connected with. And the night before his surgery, he asked me if I would visit with him and give him some blessings and do some medicine Buddha practice with him. So I did. I visited with him and his wife that night, and I did some prayers with him, and I gave him one of the very rare black pills that had been made by the 16th Karmapa during his lifetime, which are now apparently not available as they were before. And I gave him this pill, and I said, I don't know if this is true, but I've been told that part of the black color comes from a flake of iron from the bowl of Milarepa. And he's like, you mean I have a relic of Milarepa inside me right now? He said, oh, that's so cool. Oh, that's so cool. Because you know what that means? That means that when I go to the hospital tomorrow, everyone, like the orderlies who touch me, the surgeon, the nurses, they'll all get a blessing from Milarepa. And I'm like, yep. So what's really interesting is that he had this strong feeling that he now was, for a moment at least, a source of blessing to other people. And I'm sure that other people experienced him in that way. So in whatever way they could be with that, they may just say, well, he was in a good mood, but it could actually be there's more going on there. And so I feel like acceptance is always good, and it can happen, and it can be helped by this. Also, it can the experience of illness and any misfortune can be transformed, as is explained in the Great Path of Awakening, that all of the experiences of everything, illness, even death, can be transformed through the practice of bodhicitta, mind training. For example, a person who is ill could think, by my going through this illness, may no person ever suffer from this illness ever again. You can think like that. And may this illness purify all of my negative karma that I have ever accumulated. And, and may all beings have their negativities purified. So there's lots of different ways that this can be approached. And so I super appreciate this question. This is a fabulous question, because we don't know ourselves what the impact of our practice is, because we're not given that gift of clairvoyance until Buddhahood, right? So we don't really have that sense of it. But for others, it might actually they may actually experience us differently even now. So I think, as my friend Lama liked to say, that she said that it purifies a great deal of negative karma, and I think she herself had medical difficulties in her life, and she still has an extremely bright outlook on some of these things. So I'm guessing that could be part of it. It's just this like inner peace with what's going on in one's life and seeing it as part of a larger story, not just the story. But I don't know, is that helpful? Yeah. Super appreciate that. Great question. Yeah. Okay. There is time for one more. And if you have a follow-up, did you have a follow-up for that question or no? Okay, very good. All right. Yeah, I just had to check. Is there another, did I see a hand? There's, question in the shrine room.
Lama Kathy, the experience I've had doing sadhana practice and developing kind of confidence in the deities of the mandala as present kind of toggles back and forth between the feeling that I'm doing a mental exercise and a feeling of confidence of the presence of the deities. And that's affected by doing the practice. It's affected by studying the view. And I was just wondering if you had any further kind of thoughts about how one moves from thinking of it as an exercise into, you know, kind of a less self-conscious a feeling of presence.
Yeah. Yeah, I can talk about it. I don't have like an experience of this because, you know, you'd kind of like need to have practiced a bunch to have that. But here's my sense of it. Until we reach the first bhumi of Bodhisattva awakening, and really probably even beyond that, we're always going to be going back and forth between thinking of it as an exercise and having an experience of its potential beauty and majesty. I do think bodhicitta is the missing link. That when bodhicitta is applied to any practice, it transforms our capacity to engage with it. So if I'm doing Medicine Buddha as an exercise, that you're right, it can be a little bit empty and hollow. But if I'm doing Medicine Buddha because I or someone I care for are ill, that increases my connection to the practice and my engagement in that practice. But the other thing that I think has helped me a lot is that I remember my teacher, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, and how much confidence and faith he had in all of these practices. And thinking of his example, because their example is ever before us. It never ceases to go away. The example of great masters, like the masters you have, the masters that, you know, we have, their example is ever before us. And we see that they are present always. And I think, may I be like that someday, even if I can't be like that today. And that in bodhicitta, just really trying to be present with it. And also the knowledge that what Khenpo Rinpoche said was true, which is that deity practice is a form of Mahamudra. And having the confidence that if I practice this well, that my Mahamudra practice will improve and I'll be able to benefit beings in ways that I couldn't now, because we're always being asked in the end to be present with what is, always. We're always being asked to be present with what is. And slowly over time, we can create a connection with what is that's maybe healthier than the connection we have right now. And it can take us, I don't even know how to explain this, can take us to places that we haven't been before, of serving others and thinking, may I serve beings like this, but even more in the future, because in Mahayana Lojong training, you know, when you're doing something good, instead of thinking, I'm doing something good, you can think like, may I enter into even greater practice than this, and may I be able to help beings, you know, even more, even, alarms, I love them. You know, is if I can do even more, but I think bodhicitta is the medium. But I'm hoping I didn't misconstrue your question, because I'm just now realizing I may have missed your question entirely. So did I talk around it, or are we getting close?
No, that was spot on.
Oh, okay, wasn't sure. I was thinking, oh, maybe he didn't exactly mean that, but he meant this instead. So okay.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Yep, because bodhicitta is really the missing link. We have to keep working on our bodhicitta all the time, so you know, because my buddies in 12-step like to say it this way. They say, fake it till you make it. And you know, right now we just have to act as if we do have bodhicitta and keep working on that, and just, you know, just say, hey, you know, I'm a work in progress. There's time for one more. Going once, twice. Okay. Then we'll pick up where we left off. I have a photo I think that, let's see, where's my cell phone? I will attempt to take a photograph of this. I don't, because I found in my sheaf of notes about the Medicine Buddha practice, I found this like really cute drawing. There's you, the self-visualization in your little palace, and in front of you is this massive palace with a 16-petal lotus in the middle, with an 8-petal lotus on top of that. Then the 8-petal, what is it? The 8-lion throne and the 8-petal lotus and moon on top of that. Anyhow, it was like, oh, because when I drew it, that made it a little bit easier for me to see it. You know, it's kind of like a layer, you know, because where we left off was this big visualization. You know, there's you, that's you. And then that's the palace in front. I made it bigger because, I mean, how am I going to draw a 16-petal lotus, right? Because I'm not good at this. Then I also had to draw an 8-petal lotus on top of that. Well, what happens is that on each of these petals are some of the enlightened beings. On the 16-petaled lotus is the 16 bodhisattvas, the 8 male and the 8 female bodhisattvas. And on the 8-petal lotus are the 7 medicine Buddhas. I said 8 earlier, and I'm sorry, that was a mistake. There are 7. And on the front petal of that 8-petaled lotus that holds all of the 7 medicine Buddhas, there is a pile of the Medicine Buddha texts, which is why you call upon them in the supplication. In the supplication, all of the figures that are visualized are meant karma May's supplication at the beginning. And each of the 8 petals, except for the front one, has a Buddha on it, one of the medicine Buddhas on it. And then the central petal in front has the pile of texts. On the then the other members of the entourage are located in their places. At the outside of the palace are the northeast, south, and west. There are the 4 guardian kings are at these gates, north, south, east, and west. And then arranged inside the palace to the right of the medicine Buddha are arrayed the 10 protectors on the right, and on the left are the 12 Yaksha chieftains. And so what I'll do is I'll make this is a horrible drawing, and I'll probably get in trouble for this, but I'll take a photograph of it, as rough as it is, to give you something to work from, and maybe someone can talk to one of the Khenpos or and get a better drawing that would depict on paper in a drawing form the locations of all of these deities. So anyway, I was digging for it earlier before the morning class, and I couldn't find it, but I found it before the afternoon class. So I find looking at pictures helps me, you know, anyway. So that's what we have done up to now, as we've created the self and frontal visualizations. the self-visualization is quite simple. We don't have the 16 bodhisattvas surrounding us as medicine Buddha. We're sort of, you could say we're sort of medicine Buddha in training, or we could call ourselves medicine Buddha light, because we don't have all the other members of the entourage around us. But in this way, we can visualize the medicine Buddha in his full glory, surrounded by the other medicine Buddhas and the bodhisattvas and so on. So that's where I wanted to pick up this afternoon. And yes, I did during the break. I shared with Susie and with Steve the prayer text and the outline. So again, I think what happened was I shared the prayer text and the outline with a different class, and I thought I had shared it with you, but apparently I just shared it with this other group. So my mistake, and I'm sorry for that. So we'll go ahead and review in the prayer text what we have visited here. Okay, here we go. All right. I cleared up my desktop too, so now it's going to be easier. And I also don't have that glare in my eyes. Wow, that was hard. All right. If you remember, we started the Medicine Buddha text itself. I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning with the refuge and bodhicitta, right? We started with Namo, Kunjuksum Damsawasam, and so on. I go for refuge, the 3 jewels. Then after that, then we do a short bodhisattva wish in order to establish all beings in Buddhahood. I generate a mind of supreme awakening. From the expanse of primordial purity, a cloud of offerings, including the mandala, articles of royalty, offering goddesses fill the earth and sky. May it be inexhaustible Pudza Ho, making offering in this way. And then a short statement of the 4 immeasurables. May all beings be happy and be without suffering. May they abide in unimpaired happiness and in equanimity. Then we recite Om Swabhava Shuddha Sarvadharma Swabhava Shuddha Hung, and as to purify our perception and to make the statement that all is pure in nature, and so am I. So everything becomes emptiness. And then it says, from emptiness, these billion worlds arises the palace of beauty, which is the name of the medicine Buddha's abode. And inside this, on individual lion thrones, lotuses and moons, are the blue Hong, the seeds syllable of myself and the principle of the front generation. So in the center of where I am, at the palace where I am sitting, I am the seed syllable Hung. And if you want to know what Hung looks like, it is here. De Tengdu. Yeah, I'll see if I can blow it up real big. There's the syllable Hung right there. That is the seed syllable Hung. And so if you remember from this morning, we said that if you can visualize this syllable, great. But if you can't visualize it, you can just see a sphere of blue light, iridescent and clear and made completely of light and without solidity. So this is the essence of the mind of the medicine Buddha in the form of a letter. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I was able to illustrate that for you and show that to you. Okay. And then if you remember, if from these seed syllables, lights emanate, going up to make offerings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and then they return with blessings. And then lights go out a second time, outward and down to the beings of the six realms, purifying them and assuaging their suffering. And then the lights return, and then we arise as Medicine Buddha from that. And then Medicine Buddha is likewise in front of us. And then it says, from these arise Menla, who is blue, radiating light rays like sapphire. He is adorned by the 3 Dharma robes. These are the robes of a Buddhist monastic. It's the robes that Shakyamuni the Buddha is wearing. Then his right hand holds Aurora with the mudra of supreme generosity. In other words, his right hand is open in the gesture of supreme generosity, but in 2 of his fingers, and it iconographically it differs. Sometimes you'll see them between these fingers, sometimes these, sometimes these. He's holding the stem of an Aurora plant, which is a medicinal fruit. And his left hand is in his lap holding a begging bowl. Very cute. This is a cute little typographical error. A begging bowl. I like that. That's a good one. A begging bowl, B-O-W-L, in the mudra of even placement. Even placement is where his hand is open in his lap. It's sometimes called equipoise. The Medicine Buddha is completely adorned. That is you as Medicine Buddha, and the Medicine Buddha in front is completely adorned with the major and minor marks of perfection that are marking the body of a Buddha, and is seated in the Vajra posture, which for those of you who are familiar with yoga, that it's the same as the full lotus position, where the right foot is on the left thigh. I'm sorry, the left foot is on the right thigh and the right foot is on the left thigh, and the legs are crossed. On the petals of the front generation in particular are the 7 Medicine Buddhas and Dharma books. Remember, the 7 of the 8 petals have Buddhas, Medicine Buddhas on them, and then the 8th petal in front holds the sutras of the Medicine Buddha. Surrounding those are the 16 bodhisattvas. Remember, the 16 bodhisattvas on the petals of the 16-petal lotus. Surrounding them are the 10 guardians of the world. The 10 protectors are on the right, and the 12 yaksha chieftains are on the left with their retinues. And then at the 4 gates of the palace, of the front generation, are the 4 great kings. So now we have a simplified Medicine Buddha visualization for ourselves. We're just in the palace. We're Medicine Buddha in the palace on a moon disk, lotus flower, and lion throne. But in front, we see the palace of the Medicine Buddha in a grand way, with the central Medicine Buddha surrounded by 7 Medicine Buddhas, then by the 16-petaled lotus with the 16 bodhisattvas, and then the 12 yaksha chieftains on the left and the 10 protectors on the right. Don't forget the Dharma books in front, and then the 4 guardian kings at the four entrances to the palace. And so in this grand way, we visualize ourselves as Medicine Buddha in the realm of the Medicine Buddha, in his presence. And what I encourage people to do is I encourage you to take a moment, especially when you're practicing at a home by yourself. It's very easy to do this, to close your eyes and to get a sense of where everything is, where you are inside your palace, where the Medicine Buddha is in front. And yes, according to the question from earlier, you can visualize the Medicine Buddha as being your guru in essence, as well as all awakened beings. And you think of all of them as being present. Then in the text, you'll see there, it says here, from the 3 syllables in the 3 places of them all. And from the Hung in the heart, light shoots out. What this means is that now we've visualized everything. It's almost like we've created this beautiful picture. And now we're going to use a beautiful picture to enact activity. We're going to invite the medicine Buddha and his retinue from their pure realm. Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche said this step is included because he said many of us are very human and we have very human doubts. He said we might think, well, I have created this visualization, but the real medicine Buddha is not here. This can't be the real medicine Buddha. I must just be fooling myself. And so there's a step that's added here in that we're asked to visualize in the forehead, throat, and heart of all of these visualized forms, the medicine Buddha that we are, as well as the medicine Buddha and his retinue in front, and all of the beings who are visualized in front with the medicine Buddha. We think that that they are marked with a white Om at the forehead, a red Ah at the throat, and a blue Hung at the heart. These three syllables, Om, Ah, and Hung, correspond to the body, speech, and mind of the awakened beings. And so the color of the Om is white, the throat, the Ah is red, and the Hung is blue. But there's another Hung in this visualization, and that is the Hung that is in the heart of the medicine Buddha. He has Lama Tashi Dundup said, if you need to make a differentiation, he said, you can see the Om, Ah, and Hung syllables as being just inside the body made of light. Whereas the seed syllable is deep in the center of the body of the being, if that helps, You can see white light, red light, blue light, and then also light coming from the seed syllable Hung in the heart of yourself and the medicine Buddha in front. And that it's like we are the filament in a light bulb. These syllables are like the filament in a light bulb, and the light is pouring out in all directions. It's like piercingly bright, and it goes out in all directions. They talk about in Tibetan Buddhist poetry, they talk about the 10 directions, which is the cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west, the ordinal directions of northeast, southeast, northwest, southwest, and then up and down. So that's the 10 directions, the 8 compass directions plus up and down. So in this way, we see lights going out in all of these directions. And these lights invite the countless wisdom deities from their individual Buddha realms. And then these enlightened beings, they call them the wisdom beings, come from their respective realms and sort of hover. In fact, in one of the texts, it says they swirl like snowflakes in a blizzard. There are lots of them, and they are gathering around us and around the visualization in the front. And in this way, I'm going to open the book and share something from the book with you. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Okay, very good. All right. So then it says this invites, oh yeah, the lights that go out, shooting out in all directions, invite the real deities. Because the deities that we have visualized ourselves as, and in front, they have a fancy name. They're called the Samaya, Samaya, Samaya Sattvas. And or the I guess the deities of the promise, we're creating a visualization, and we're asking for the wisdom deities, the real deities, the Jnana Sattvas, Jnana, Jnana Sattvas, the real deities, to come and bless us and to be with us. Remember, Rinpoche said, when you call them, they come. And when you ask them to stay, they stay. So we're doing the calling now. And we, in fact, we even say special words of invitation. We start with Hung, which is the seed syllable of the Medicine Buddha. Hung. I invite the 8 Menla brothers and all deities without exception. Please rain down great blessings. Bestow supreme empowerment upon me, who am worthy and faithful. Please dispel false guides and obstacles to longevity. Then we, with words and gestures, Namo, we say a mantra. Namo meaning praise to, or praise to. Maha means great. Bhikanse, the great king of medicine. Sapari water means that with all of your retinue, and through your Vajra promise, Benza Sama Za, come. So Namo, Maha, Bhikanse, great king of medicine, and your retinue, through your promise, come and be with us. Benza Samaya Za. Then we offer them a seat. We think that they come and say, Benza Samaya Tiktralen. And this seat that we're offering them is actually the visualization that we've created. We're saying, please be here with us. And when we say the words, Benza Samaya, through your sacred promise, Tiktralen, please be with us. Please be seated. Then we can imagine at that moment that the wisdom deities dissolve into us and into the visualized deities in front. This is spoken of in Medicine Buddha Teachings on page 36, for those of you who are following along in the book. He says, the last paragraph on this page, in the center of the paragraph, he says, at that point, you think that all the invited deities, reminded of their commitment, dissolve into both the self-visualization and the deities of the front visualization. At that point, think that your body, speech, and mind, visualized as the Medicine Buddha, and the body, speech, and mind of the Medicine Buddha himself have become inseparable. And then the next phase of this consecration of ourselves and our environment continues by receiving blessing, empowerment from the Buddhas and from the Buddhas. And so he says, we have just dissolved the wisdom beings into ourself and into the front visualization as a remedy for one's obscurations, one's wrongdoing, and one's conceptualization. Then we receive empowerment. This phase of the practice is represented in the liturgy simply by this mantra, Om Hung Tram Hri A Abhikinsa Hum. Om Hung Tram Hri A Abhikinsa Hum. And Trungpa Rinpoche says, the visualization which accompanies the mantra is as follows, and this is detailed on page 40 of the book Medicine Buddha Teachings, so you can look it up to follow along. He says, once again, you visualize the three syllables, Om, Ah, and Hung, in the three places on oneself and on the medicine Buddha and the deities of the front visualization. And once again, rays of light radiate from them, especially from the home in your heart, inviting this time the 5 male Buddhas and the 5 families with their retinue from their pure realms. The Buddhas are holding in their hands precious vases filled with ambrosia of wisdom, which they pour into you as the self-visualized medicine Buddha through the aperture at the very center of the top of your head. The first part of this mantra, Om, Hung, Tram, Hri, Ah, represents this empowerment being administered by the 5 Buddhas simultaneously. Om represents the Buddha Vairocana. Hung represents the Buddha Akshobhya. Tram represents the Buddha Ratnasambhava. Hri represents the Buddha Amitabha. And Ah represents the Buddha Amoghasiddhi. To repeat, Om represents Vairocana, Hung represents Akshobhya, Tram represents Ratnasambhava, Hri represents Amitabha, and Ah represents Amoghasiddhi. And you can find these on Medicine Buddha Teachings, page 40, bottom paragraph. Visualizing that the pure ambrosia fills your entire body, you think that it purifies all the wrongdoing, obscurations, and defilements of any kind whatsoever of your body, speech, and mind. The word abhikensa means empowerment. And so now, hopefully through this process of visualizing lights, inviting the real wisdom deities, we imagine they dissolve into us, and we imagine that light goes back out to the 5 Buddhas and 5 male and female Buddhas, and that they come and and pour it into our heads with blessings. And so this is, remember I said that this practice is purifying. Well, this is one of the ways it's purifying, is that we have all these ideas about ourselves, some of which are correct, some of which are incorrect. In any event, we have a confused and diluted body, speech, and mind. And so they provide us with, through this empowering ambrosia, the opportunity to wash away all of our negativities and to establish ourselves being ambrosia of wisdom. So big skulls that we have Buddha nature. And so being able to use this type of method day after day after day helps us to overcome our confused and diluted way of thinking about ourselves. So in that way, through the visualization, receiving the blessing from the wisdom deities, and now being empowered with the ambrosia, we can feel as though the purification is well underway. The next section of the practice is all about accumulating merit through offering. We've received a blessing now. We've received a purification. We've received a blessing. So now, because we have called and asked the medicine Buddha and his entire retinue to be present in front of us, we're going to take advantage of the opportunity to make offerings to them. I spoke to a person once who had a dream about seeing a Buddha. And I said, well, what did you do? And they said, made offerings, of course. I made offerings, of course. I bowed, I did prostrations, I bowed, and I made offerings. I mean, what else are you going to do, right? I thought that was rather beautiful. It's very sweet, you know. I wish I had dreams like that. It doesn't happen, but in any case, if that should happen sometime, I hope I have the presence of mind to bow and make offerings too. In any case, the next section of the practice, and this is discussed on page 41 of Medicine Buddha Teaching, is the accumulation of merit through making offerings. As indicated, the self-visualization presents the offerings to the front visualization. So rays of light emerge from the heart of the self-visualization of yourself as Medicine Buddha. On the ends of these light rays are offering goddesses holding various offering substances, which they present to all of the deities of the front visualizations. Hong. So then the text talks about these Hong, again, because this is the Medicine Buddha seed syllable, it begins this section. I offer the deity flowers, incense, lamps, scents, food, music, and so on, forms, sounds, smells, taste, touch, and all things. May we complete the two accumulations. The two accumulations, by the way, may we accumulate merit and may we accumulate wisdom. So may we accumulate merit and wisdom, the two accumulations, which duration. Now you'll say, wait a minute, 4 veils, and now you're saying there's 2. What happened? Did they go or what? But the answer is, when they're talked about as 4, when the 4 veils are talked about as 4, it is ignorance, habitual tendency, mental affliction, and karmic accumulation. But when you only talk about 2, they're placed together, and you only talk about basic ignorance and mental affliction. So when you brief it down, it's just ignorance and mental affliction. Because if you think about it, mental affliction takes in the karmic accumulation, and it takes in and ignorance takes in a lot about habitual tendency. So in any case, whether you see them split up this way or you see them split this way, the idea is that all 4 are included in the 2, ignorance and kleshas, or ignorance and mental afflictions. Okay, so that's why they say we need 2 accumulations: the accumulations of merit and the accumulation counteract the so anyway, that's why these they say may we complete the 2 accumulations. And then we name these offerings. Argam is water for drinking. It's drinking water. Padyam is water for washing. Pupe is flowers. Dupe is incense. Aloke is lamps. Gende, perfume. Newade is food. And Shabda is music. Now, those are the ones we're most familiar with. Those are the ones that we see, for example, in the Amitabha practice. And then there are, then these are generally associated with the senses. And then the other is the offering of form, rupa, beautiful form, rupa. Shabda is music again. Gande is perfume again. Rasa is food. And saparshe is clothing. that has a nice tactile sensation. So all of these are these objects of the senses. And those are the first things we offer. These are called outer offerings because they have to do with the senses. The outer offerings are essentially offering of whatever is beautiful and pleasant in the world. The inner offerings, let's see here. Oh, I see. Okay. Let's see here. I'm taking a quick look. Oh, I see. Trong Rinpoche is talking about several different types of offerings. Then he says the next two types of offerings are the 8 and these or marks. According to Trong Rinpoche, and this is on page 43 of Medicine Buddha Teachings, are so called because they are 8 substances that are connected with the arising of Dharma in this world. They are considered auspicious because they were significant in bringing about the arising of the teachings. These 8 auspicious signs or designs appear on the body of a Buddha and are therefore considered auspicious. The 8 auspicious substances include such things as conch shell, a right turning conch, which the god Indra offered to the Buddha when he requested him to turn the wheel of Dharma. Based on Indra's offering, the Buddha first taught the Dharma, as a consequence of which beings have the opportunity to encounter the Dharma and attain its result. For this reason, the conch shell, with its clockwise swirl, is considered auspicious. Another of the auspicious substances is durva grass, which a grass cutter and seller, whose name also was auspicious, offered the Buddha when he encountered him just before the Buddha's awakening. The Buddha used the durva grass to make his seat, on which he sat while he attained awakening. And thus, in this way, the 8 substances are offered to the Medicine Buddha and his retinue, making the aspiration to complete the 2 accumulations by offering them. The mantra at the end of the stanza is Mangalam, which means auspicious, and Arta, city, which makes it the accomplishment of auspiciousness. So you'll see in the prayer text, the 8 foremost auspicious article. The white mustard seed and others, all of these are associated with the life of the Buddha. I offer to the deities, may the 2 accumulations be completed. Mangala Artam Siddhi Hung. The next one is the 8 auspicious emblems, which represent marks on the side of the body of the Buddha, outside marks on the body of the Buddha. The 8 auspicious symbols, the peerless royal vase, and so forth, are offered to the deities. May sentient beings complete the 2 accumulations. Mangalam Akumbha Hong. And of course, Trong Rinpoche goes to some detail that the shape on the top of the Buddha's head is reminiscent of a parasol, and the shape of his eyes are like 2 golden fishes, and this type of thing. So that will be a teaching for another day. But anyway, it goes on to talk about these. And then at the end, he says, Mangala Kumbha Hong. Mangalam means auspiciousness, and Kumbha means vase. The vase here is used as shorthand for all 8 of the signs and shapes. Because the vase represents the shape of the Buddha's throat, and because it was out of the Buddha's throat that the Dharma issued forth, the vase is considered the foremost importance of the 8 auspicious emblems. The next offering is of the 7 articles of royalty, which are 7 possessions unique to a certain kind of monarch called a Chakravartin. I know that this is a poor comparison. But many of us will be familiar with Arthurian legends, which were British legends about a religious king named King Arthur. Well, the Chakravartin in Asian legends is the same type of wheel-turning righteous king. And so that's why the 7 articles of royalty are offered, because it was thought at the time of the Buddha, the idea of the Chakravartin was in the popular conscience. And because the Buddha came from a royal family, some people thought that he was a Chakravartin, but he ended up not being a king at all, but rather being a sage and wise man. And so then we offer these 7 articles of royalty, ending with the Om Mani Ratna or Reina Hong. Let's see. It says here what a Chakravartin appears during the best or finest periods of history, during what is called a fortunate eon. They distinguish the Chakravartin from any other monarch. However, the true internal meaning of these 7 articles is that they represent the 7 aspects of the path to awakening, which is traversed by all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So when you make this offering, you think that externally you're offering the 7 articles of royalty, which really are representations of 7 aspects of the path to awakening. You present these offerings to all the deity of the mandala visualized in front, making the aspiration that by doing so, you will complete the 2 accumulations. And the mantra used to complete this offering refers to the first of the 7 articles, the precious jewel. Mani means jewel and Reina means precious. The next thing that is offered is the entire universe, with the central mountain, Mount Meru, with the 4 continents and islands, offered to the deities. So in other words, the entire universe is being offered to the deities, and we ask, may the 2 accumulations be complete. Om Reina Mandal Hum. And then Trungpa Rinpoche goes on to some length to talk about the mandala offering, but because we're short on time, we'll have to skip this for today. But the idea is that when we offer the universe, we're not just offering the physical universe, we're also offering our own body, speech, and mind. Om Reina, or precious mandala Om. And then after the next things that are going to happen after these fundamental offerings, there will be 4 different sets of offerings of the 8 auspicious substances, the auspicious signs, the 7 articles, and finally the mandala. The next offering is the offering of ablution, of washing the bodies of the deities. Washing the bodies of the deities is done to create the auspicious basis for the removal of your own wrongdoing, your own defilements, and your own obscurations, the afflictive obscurations and the cognitive obscurations. So after having offered all of these 7 articles of royalty, the 8 auspicious emblems, and so forth, all of these, after offering all of these, then we offer the deities 4 traditional offerings of bathing and washing. Well, you'll see when we get there. It says, Hung, with scented water, I bathe the Sugata's body. Although your body is stainless, this creates in us the condition for purifying wrongdoing and obscurations. Om Sarva Tata Gata Abhike Kata Samaya Shirye Hong. In this way, the mantra says, in this way, all of the Buddhas are washed. It says Sarva means all, Tathagata means Buddhas, Abhike Kata refers to the process, in which in some contexts means empowerment, but in this context, it means ablution. Through this offering, you increase the splendor and majesty of the deities. Therefore, there are the words Shirye, which means splendid, majestic, or glorious. The next offering that goes along with ablution is drying the bodies. which is done by visualizing offering goddesses holding fine white cotton towels scented with perfume. Hong, with a scented and soft white cloth, I dry the victor's body. Although your body is stainless, this creates the condition for freedom from suffering. Om Kaya Bishodani Hong. And he says that, of course, you're not washing the deities and drying them because they're dirty and wet. You're doing it as a symbol of your own purification, making the aspiration, may I and all beings be purified in the future. Kayo Vishodani means the purification of the body. Next is the offering of clothes or robes to the deities of the mandala. Hong, with beautiful saffron robes, I clothe the victor's body. Although your body is never cold, this creates the condition for magnificence and brilliance to flourish. Om Benza Wetra Ah Hong. Then he says, having bathed and dried them, now we offer them appropriate robes. Then he says, these are offered to the medicine Buddha and to the 7 medicine Buddhas and his retinue, all of whom, since they are manifesting in the supreme Nirmanakaya form, wear only the beautiful saffron red and yellow robes, which are worn by the Buddhas. And he says that each of these sections, ablution, drawing, and offering clothing, has its own particular significance. And I think all of them are mentioned here. And then the 4th offering is the offering of praise. And that is Hong, homage and praise to the precious holder of medicine, whose body is like a mountain of sapphire, who dispels the suffering of being sickness and is surrounded by a retinue of 8 bodhisattvas. Homage and praise to the 3 jewels. And then he names the medicine Buddhas: excellent name, precious moon, good gold, no misery, ocean of Dharma, Dharma mind, and Shakyamuni. To the sacred Dharma, the 16 bodhisattvas, and so forth. Homage and praise to the deities of ambrosial medicine, to Brahma, Indra, the great kings, the 10 protectors, the 12 Yaksha chiefs, together with their attendants, and the Vidyadharas and rishis of medicine, both divine and human. Then I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge to the Bhagavan, Tathagata. Oh, I'm sorry. This is an insert that is not in your text. This is the, at this point, because praises are being recited as part of the root text, one of the Kempos at KTD Monastery said that this would be the right spot to put the name mantras or the name praises of each of the Buddhas. But since that is not part of your text and there's no visualization that goes with it, we will skip this part. Now, having made the offerings, voluminous though they are, we have made this huge volume of offering. There is still one more thing for us to do, and that is to enact Buddha activity through reciting the medicine Buddha's mantra. Then think that the Hung in the heart of oneself as medicine Buddha and the Hung in the heart of the medicine Buddha in front is surrounded by the mantra garland of Teata Om Bekanze Bekanze Maha Bekanze Radza Samungate Soha. And so each of these letters is seen as standing up, like pins in a pincushion on a moon disk in the heart of the medicine Buddha. Kempo Rinpoche told me, if you can't see Tibetan letters, don't despair. You can see them as small blue spheres of light. And that really made me happy because this is hard for me. I can't quite see them. In any case, while you are reciting the mantra, the mantra visualization is described here in Medicine Buddha Teachings. hang on, it is the mantra recitation is described in starting on page 59 of Medicine Buddha Teachings. And at the first part of this chapter, he talks about about visualization practice in general, which, because we are short on time, I won't have time to share with you today. But it's hoped that maybe when we get back together again, we'll talk a little bit about the fact that it doesn't matter if you can clearly visualize these things. Khenpo Rinpoche said, it's a lot. It's a lot. So don't worry if you can't see it all. Have the sense that the enlightened beings are present. He said, just have the sense that they are really present in front of you, and have the sense that you are really making offerings. And when you do this, it's that it is more important that you have the sense of their presence. There are three qualities that Trungpa Rinpoche talks about at the beginning of the chapter on mantra, which I believe is chapter 5 in this book. He talks about dak, D-A-K, which is the Tibetan word for purity, sal, S-A-L, which is the Tibetan word for clarity, and ten, T-E-N, which is the Tibetan word for firmness. Sal, which is the clarity of the visualization, is actually not as important as dak, meaning the knowledge of the purity of the beings and the purity of their presence, and ten, which is that the firmness, the fact that they are there, you are there, and you're interacting with the space in front of you as though it were filled with awakened beings. And so this idea of these three qualities of a visualization, sal for clarity, dak for purity, and ten for firmness, these are things we have to think about when we are doing visualizations and recitations like this one. We shouldn't stress. We should do our best not to stress. As my church friends like to say, I'm too blessed to be stressed. You know, the idea is that we are in the presence of all these awakened beings, and that's a great blessing for us. Now, I think of all of the visualizations that are part of this practice. The mantra recitation is probably the most important, and you can, as I mentioned, start reading about it on page 59, but the majority of it is on page 60 of Medicine Buddha Teachings. So he encourages us, while we are reciting the mantra, to visualize in the following way. He says, in the heart of ourself as Medicine Buddha is a moon disk, a disk of white light that represents the moon, that is lying flat in the very center of one's body at the level of the heart. Standing upright on this disk is visualized the seed syllable of the deity Ablu Hong, which represents the deity's mind, wisdom mind. Surrounding the home is visualized the garland of the mantra from which rays of light will emanate. Having visualized the moon disk, the home syllable, and the mantra, you then think that from the home and the mantra garland in the heart of the self-visualization, that's you as Medicine Buddha, rays of light, multicolored light, shoot out toward the front visualization. These rays of light strike the heart of the front visualization, arousing Medicine Buddha's non-conceptual compassion and causing rays of multicolored light to emerge from the mantra garland and syllable Hong in the heart of the Medicine Buddha in front, which then proceeds to the pure realm of the Medicine Buddha, called the Eastern Pure Realm of the light of Vaidurya. On the tips of each of these multicolored rays of light are offering goddesses who make innumerable offerings to the medicine Buddhas, the 7 other medicine Buddhas, the 16 bodhisattvas, and so on. These offerings serve to arouse their compassion and remind them of their promises, vows, and aspirations to benefit beings, and to cause them to release their blessings. The blessings of their body come to you in the form of innumerable forms of the medicine Buddha and his retinue, huge ones, tiny ones, and every size in between. These innumerable forms of the medicine Buddha, the principal medicine Buddha, the other medicine Buddhas, and the bodhisattvas rain down and dissolve into you as the self-visualization and into the front visualization, granting you the blessings of the body of medicine Buddha and his retinue. At the same time, the blessing of their speech is emitted in the form of the mantra garlands, which in this case are multicolored. Mantra garlands of various colors rain down from the pure realms of the medicine Buddha and dissolve into you as the medicine Buddha and into the front visualization, granting you the blessings of their speech. Finally, the blessings of their mind, which strictly speaking has no form, is for the purpose of this visualization embodied in the form of what is held in the medicine Buddha's hands, the aurora fruit and the begging bowls filled with ambrosia. These are emitted by the medicine Buddhas and rain down and dissolve into you as the medicine Buddha and into the front visualization, granting you the blessing of their mind. Trungpa Rinpoche says, if you can visualize clearly, it is best to do all of this slowly, very slowly and gradually. While you continue to say the mantra, you think that rays of light emerge from the self-visualization. So he walks you back through each of the steps. Bless him. You know, he says, now this is how you do it, step by step. As you recite the mantra, rays of light emerge from the self-visualization, go to the front visualization, and then from the front visualization to the pure realms, proceeding gradually and slowly, especially when the blessings of body in the form of medicine Buddha, speech in the form of the mantra, and mind in the form of the fruit and the begging bowls rain down and dissolve into you. You can do the visualization in sequence. First, visualizing the blessings of body raining down. Don't be in a hurry. Next, visualizing the blessings of speech raining down, and then the blessings of mind raining down. He says, if you find that the visualization is unclear, if you wish, you can do all 3 of them at once, body, speech, and mind. But if you do it gradually and slowly, you will find that you get a much stronger sense of the blessings actually entering into you. By taking your time with the visualization, you will develop real confidence, a real feeling that the blessings are entering into you. And this on page 61, second paragraph, is very important. When you receive the blessings of the medicine Buddha and of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in general, various unpleasant things, obstacles, sicknesses, demonic disturbances will be pacified, and compassion, faith, devotion, insight, and so on will flourish and increase. In order to practice the descent of blessings most effectively, it is a good idea to focus the blessings on whatever is afflicting you most at that time. For example, if you're having a particular physical problem or a particular emotional problem, a particular klesha, a particular type of stress, or particular worries, you can focus the absorption of the blessings of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas on that. You can focus it on the removal of wrongdoing and obscurations in general, but focus it especially on what you regard as your greatest concern at that moment. For example, you might think that you lack insight, or you lack compassion, or you lack faith. And if you lack these things, then if you feel that think that the blessing serves to promote that quality that you feel you are most lacking, and feel that through the absorption of these blessings, you actually become filled with that quality as though it were a substance that were actually filling your whole body. So that's a very powerful thing to do. And then at the bottom of this page, he adds a visualization that Karma Chakme gives in his book, Mountain Dharma. He says, if you are being afflicted by specific illnesses in specific parts of your body, you can visualize yourself as the medicine Buddha if you wish, but the main focus is to actually visualize a small form of the medicine Buddha, no longer than 4 finger widths in height, in the actual part of your body that is afflicted. So if it's in your head, you visualize a small medicine Buddha in the head. If it's in the hand, you visualize medicine Buddha in the hand, and so on. And you think that from this small but vivid form of the medicine Buddha, rays of light are emitted. These rays of light are not simply light, which is dry, but light that has the quality of a liquid and a quality of ambrosia. This luminous ambrosia or liquid light actually cleanses and removes the sickness and pain, whatever this is. You can do this not only for yourself by visualizing the medicine Buddha in the appropriate part of your own body, but you can do it for others as well by visualizing the medicine Buddha in the appropriate part of their body or bodies. The radiation of light rays and ambrosia and so on is the same. And it can also do away with mental problems. And he says, he says, you can also, if you're feeling any stress or depression or fear, you can visualize the medicine Buddha seated on the top of your head and think the same way as before, that luminous ambrosia or liquid light emerges from his body, filling your body and cleansing you of any problem, whatever it is. You might think that all of this, he says, sounds a bit childish, but in fact, it actually works. And you will find that out if you try it. So I wanted to make sure that I read you Trungpa Rinpoche's own words, which carry a huge blessing, and invite you to review these over and over again in the Medicine Buddha Teachings book. And then as he advises us to go through these visualizations slowly, one by one by one by one, feeling that the blessings are actually entering us. And so it's my hope that by talking about this, this will sort of, shall we say, whet your appetite, and that you'll want to get the book out and read a little bit more about it. When you have recited as much mantra as you're going to recite that session, you then say a short prayer where you confess any faults that you may have done in the visualization or in the recitation. Because what often happens, because we're human, is that we think, well, I recited one of the mantras wrong, or I did one of the visualizations incorrectly. Does this negate the benefit of the practice? And so in order to dispel this kind of thinking, we recite these lines after we have recited the mantra. I confess all wrongs and downfalls and dedicate all virtue to awakening. May there be the auspiciousness of freedom from sickness, duns are obstacles or obscurations, excuse me, and suffering. And then we think, and so we say these 2 lines in order to make up for any errors in our practice. Thinking that now we have made up for our errors, we then dismiss all of the worldly deities, going back to their own places with the mantra Benza Mu. And then then in the wisdom deities and the imagined deities then all dissolve into myself as Medicine Buddha, and then I as Medicine Buddha dissolve into the all good expanse of primordial purity with the phrase Ema Ho, or isn't it marvelous? Isn't it marvelous? And so there are many ways to do this practice, but this I'm very pleased that this one is so clear and so brief. Because it's possible for us to do them, right? Here's the dissolution of the deities is described in Medicine Buddha Teachings on page 63. When you say worldly ones return to your own places, Benzamu, you think that the 10 protectors of the 10 directions, the 12 Yaksha chieftains, and the 4 great kings, all mundane deities visualized in the entourage of the front visualization, to return to where they would normally reside. That leaves the 8 medicine Buddhas and the 16 bodhisattvas in the front visualization. These deities, who are the wisdom deities embodying the visualized images of them, dissolve into your heart as the self-visualization. Then the self-visualization gradually dissolves into light and then into the expanse of emptiness, at which point you say, and I dissolve into the expanse of the all-good primordial purity. At that point, you rest your mind in the experience of emptiness. All Yidam practices include 2 stages, the generation stage and the completion stage. Everything up to this point, the visualization of the forms, the presentation of offerings, and so forth, the repetition of the mantras, and the visualizations are all aspects of the generation stage. When, subsequent to the dissolution of the visualization, you rest your mind in emptiness, this is the practice of the completion stage. It is as though it is through the practice of these 2 stages that you actually come to realize dharmata, the nature of things. Visualization and other generation stage practices function to weaken the mental afflictions or kleshas, while completion stage practices, which include the practices of shamatha and vipassana, serve to eradicate them. Just wanted to make sure that I covered the whole thing, so I ran over a little bit, and I'm going to continue to run over for an additional 5 to 7 minutes. Just to see, as a way of saying that it looks like we will need to have a separate session on the mudras and the ritual performance of this. So what we'll need to do for this is we'll need to schedule an additional Saturday program. We won't need 3 sessions. We would just need 2 sessions. So you could do Friday night and Saturday morning, or Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon. I'm sorry about that. It was very ambitious for me to try to do it. I thought I could, but I didn't have enough time. Mostly because I wanted to spend the hour or so that I spent on introducing the practice and talking about. Actually, I spent almost all entirety of a whole session on background, deity meditation, purification, the veils, and so on. So to give you some context, so that I shorted myself a bit. So we'll have to get together to do the ritual at another time. I'm very sorry about that. But we can talk a bit about any questions you might have. This was a very rapid working through the text, but you can now see how each section of the text, one section leads to the next section, and how the generation stage ends at this very last minute, at this very last bit. Ends with the dissolution of oneself as Medicine Buddha into emptiness and experiencing mind's nature in that moment. I'm open for questions for maybe 5-10 minutes, and then we'll have to set up another one. So I'm sorry about the time crunch. And it's quite all right if you have to go. I understand. There's a question in the shrine room.
Thank you so much for this. I wanted everybody to know that we have had for a number of years in our chant book, at the end of the Medicine Buddha practice, we have a page of the 5 Buddha families and a page of the mudras. So people can refer to those. And if you'd like, I'd send them to you. And you can give them your stamp of approval or not.
I think there's a little distortion on my end because my wireless or Wi-Fi signal is not good here. I'm in a rural area, So there was a little noise on your question. So I heard you, what I heard you say was that at the end of the text you do there in Portland, there is an additional set of lines, and you're wondering about them?
No, actually, there's a page of the five Buddha, visual page of the five Buddha families, an additional page of the movements. Showing
Oh, wonderful.
showing
Wonderful. That's
Yeah.
great.
pictures of all the movements.
Oh, fabulous. Yeah, that's great. That'll definitely be helpful. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Anytime we can share information from a good source, that's a good thing. Thank you. Other things that people might want to talk about.
Who was on the cover of the book?
This is as far as I can tell, this is Namchu Mingyur Dorje. The treasure revealer. I'll double check that, but that's my understanding, is that the cover is the cover depicts Namchu Mingyur Dorje. Pretty cool, right? I've never seen until this cover of this book. I had never seen him depicted in iconography, so that's kind of neat, you know. We the form of the other Mingyur Dorje, which is Yongey Mingyur Dorje, the other treasure revealer, is part of the, and you can only maybe barely see it out of the corner here of my this is the up here in the on my wall is my picture of Karmapakshi, the Karmapakshi sadhana, and Yongey Mingyur Dorje is depicted on that tanka. So that's so there are two Mingyur Dorjes, Namchu Mingyur Dorje and Yongey Mingyur Dorje. The Yongey Mingyur Dorje, who found the Karmapakshi text as well as a few others, is now known among all of us as the Mingyur Rinpoche of Tergar International, the educational foundation. So, but I have not heard about the current Namchu Mingyur Dorje, and I don't know much about him. So that would be something that would be interesting to learn. Anything further? I feel so bad for you because that was a lot. Okay, there's a yes from the shrine room.
Just one quick question. Would it be correct to say, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm just trying to yeah, I'm doing my best here.
That the medicine Buddha and his retinue would be the Sambhoga Kaya form presenting itself, Buddha nature presenting itself in a deity form. The question kind of relates to Buddha nature and the way it presents, and you know, trying to get a better understanding of
Yeah. I think I understand the question, and let me see if I can address that. There we're talking about a couple different things. There is there's a lot of, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of nomenclature in Tibetan Buddhism, lots of nomenclature, right? And sometimes the Tibetans will use this nomenclature interchangeably, which messes us up something fierce. There's I'm going to get my whiteboard out here and talk about the Nirmanakaya and the Sambhogakaya. Bless you. And the Dharmakaya, right? So that's one of the ways that one of the sets of nomenclatures that can be used is to describe how the Buddhas manifest. And there's a prayer that I quote actually at the beginning of the Vajra Echoes video on Medicine Buddha that I read that day for the very first time. I had never read it before, but it made it all become clear for me. And it goes like this: the Dharmakaya, through compassion, manifests as the two kayas of form. So that's a quotation from a prayer. So what this means is the Dharmakaya is often called the enlightened mind of the Buddha. The Nirmanakaya is sometimes called the enlightened body of the Buddha, and the Sambhogakaya is sometimes called the enlightened speech of the deity. But that's just one way of talking about them. You can as let's see. Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember Ken MacLeod's footnote in Dharma in this book. Oh, thank you, Rinpoche. He had me open to that page. He's so helpful. He's more present in our lives now in many ways than he was a while back. He's been hanging around a lot lately. Being is truth. Is Sambhogakaya, he calls being as full of qualities. And I'm sorry, got that the other way around. My bad. That's being as full of qualities. And then the Nirmanakaya is being as expression. And so that's it's from Ken, footnote 67. Okay, so so it is, but this is, there are lots of ways these words get used, okay? And this is completely separate from the discussion of the Samaya Sattva, the Jnana Sattva, okay? And the Samadhi Sattva. You know, there's a lot. There's and yet another set of, you know, yet more. Yet more nomenclature. There's like lots more. Samaya Sattva is the imagined deity. And Jnana Sattva is the wisdom deity or Rio deity. And the Samadhi Sattva is the deity, the meditation being, which is usually the seed syllable in the heart of a visualized deity. So I want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. So that's why I'm kind of pulling apart the question just a tiny bit so that I can differentiate between this set of nomenclature and this set. Okay. So I think your question's about this set.
Yes.
Okay. So if your question's about this set, this is how I look at it. Dharmakaya through compassion manifests as the two kayas of form. According to Kempo Kartha Rinpoche, you know, the Dharmakaya expression of a Buddha, it is perceived differently by beings on the bhumis of awakening and ordinary beings. Okay, so the Dharmakaya expression of a Buddha is perceived differently by beings on the bhumis of awakening who experience them as full of qualities. Who experience them as full of qualities, symbolized. I can't type anymore. In iconography by silks and jewels and silks and jewels. And ordinary unenlightened beings who experience them as ordinary beings. Such as human teachers, etc. Okay, does that help some? Does that help at all?
Yes, it helps, you know, as you say, the nomenclature is, you know, I guess there are different ways of understanding it. I was just trying to break it, I don't want to prolong. I know we're at the end of the session here, but I guess I was just thinking of the Dharmakaya as being the physical form of the Buddha, and the Sambhogakaya as being sort of more like the deities, like in between formless and form. And then Dharma, you know, and then,
Yeah,
but
I think, yeah, this will be a longer answer because there's more pieces to it.
yeah.
Bodhisattvas are generally the eight bodhisattvas are generally as rules, whereas the five Buddhas, you know, the five Dhyana Buddhas are generally depicted as monastics or in the Nirmanakaya form. So, and there's also something called created Nirmanakaya, which is what statuary is. Created Nirmanakaya is statuary and tankas, etc. So I think the question, your question, probably we should probably sit and refine your question a bit, because I think I know what you're talking about, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, all right, thank you for the details.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I'm not grasping it right now.
It's all right, I can think about the question more.
Yeah, because the Dharmakaya is perceived differently, and it actually has to do with who's viewing
Yeah,
the being. The person who's and otherworldly means experiences reality, their perception is completely different from ours. And that's maybe why they say that they're that they are you know, that they're Sambhogakaya forms and bhumis of awakening who experience them as Sambhogakaya. Boga. I can't pronounce. And ordinary unenlightened beings who experience them as ordinary beings, such as human teachers and so on. And then there's a whole nother way of talking about the kayas in A Great Path of Awakening, where they talk about seeing ordinary perception as the being the four kayas. And that's a whole nother kettle of tofu, which we won't be able to get in today. So I'm sorry I was not up to that question, but let's keep exploring and then see what we can learn about it. Okay. And I've held you over now for almost half an hour, so I feel a little bad about it. But what I can say is I thank you just for your patience and for your stick-to-itiveness. Because if you can stick-to-itiveness, if you can apply that to your practice and to sort of digging in and learning the Medicine Buddha practice and digging in and making it yours and embodying it as much as you can, I think that's going to be fabulous, just really, really good. So I'm sorry I have to stop here, but I'm super happy that you asked about this. And this is this is a continuously improving situation. So I will keep working on my presentation. And hopefully when we get back together again, I'll be able to share those pictures about the mudras and things like that. Because I did take pictures today from the New Zealand edition of the hand mudras and gestures. And I'd love to take some time just to walk through all of them with you, because I did that with my folks and it was really a lot of fun. So, yes, sir.
Lama Kathy, just on behalf of Vajravidya and our friends who joined us, just heartfelt thanks. Your way of teaching reminds me a lot of Trungpa Rinpoche's ability to teach at many levels and with great clarity. And I'm very grateful. We're all very grateful for your teaching these 2 times, and look forward to a meeting with you to talk about the rituals and the next part. Especially kind of you to join us on a cloudless day in Columbus. So thank you very, very much.
Yeah, I know. Just so you know, it's cloudy now. I drove 45 miles east of where I was this morning, and because I live about 45 miles east of Columbus, and it's actually partly cloudy. The sun is still there. You can see it's lovely.
Well, for us, you parted the clouds. Thank you very much.
Well, you're incredibly kind. You're incredibly kind, and I just thank you. And I want to encourage you to continue to work on your practice, and especially on bodhisattva motivation, which in these difficult times is hard to muster sometimes. So I thank you for that, and let's gather together all the goodness that we have put together from this, and make the aspiration that through this merit, all beings are freed from illnesses in particular, and all sufferings of body and mind, and that we find ways to bring kindness into our lives and into the lives of those we touch. So I'll say the short prayer in English. Through this merit, may all achieve the omniscience of Buddhahood. May it defeat our common enemy, wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may we free all beings. May we free all beings. May we free all beings. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Take good care. Be safe out there.
Thank you so much,
you so
Lama Kathy.
Om Mani Padme Hung. Okay, we'll see you.
Sheila looks like she's in down spot somewhere.
What's that?
Hi, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.